Oh, it's holiday baking season. Cookies, they're my jam. And I am so excited to share this recipe for a holiday shortbread cookie. These are my chocolate chip shortbread cookies. You can be fancy about it and call them stracciatella shortbread cookies if you want. We all need a reliable shortbread recipe for the holiday cookie tin. And it always starts with the butters. I'm starting with unsalted butter because I like to be in charge of the salt. If you have a family recipe that calls for salted butter and your Aunt Mavis has been making it for years and years, then you carry on that tradition. But you understand why I like to use unsalted butter. So before I do anything, I beat the butter a little bit to soften it up and aerate it, make it nice and fluffy. Shortbread cookies aren't complicated. They don't have complicated ingredients. So the technique, while also simple, really counts. Don't rush this step. I am going to take a minute just to scrape down the bowl to make sure that butter gets evenly combined. You can use electric beaters for this recipe, but I do recommend using some sort of tool as opposed to mixing your shortbread cookies by hand. The aeration, the beating of the butter, and also with the icing sugar guarantees a shortbread cookie that's not just tender and melts away when you bite it, but has structure so it won't crumble or break in your holiday cookie tin. I can actually see that the butter has turned slightly paler in color. Less butter color, more creamy colored. So now I know it's time to add my little bit of icing sugar. And it may be surprising if this is your first time making shortbread to see how little sugar goes into a shortbread cookie. And that's part of what keeps it short. If you added so much sugar, you'd have a crispier cookie that spreads as it bakes. Now I'm going to add my vanilla extract and no egg. That is a rule when it comes to making shortbread. It's not a shortbread if you add an egg or even an egg yolk. At this point, I don't expect the vanilla to work in fully. I can just move right to adding the dry ingredients because it will take a minute for everything to come together. So I've got my all-purpose flour. And to ensure that my shortbread stay nice and tender, you typically add a starch. I favor potato starch in this shortbread recipe because it gives you that melting, melt away quality when you take a bite. You can replace this with the same measure of cornstarch. The texture might be slightly different. I do have some recipes where I use rice flour in my shortbread cookie, but that gives you more of a grainy, still tender and buttery, but grainier style of shortbread cookie. So your starch is a key element. And I'll just add my 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'll just mix this until it comes together. I know that vanilla is working its way in at the same time. It's such a small measurement. It doesn't interfere with the way the dough comes together. If you're thinking about the tools in your kitchen and wondering if you can use a food processor to make shortbread, you can, but I actually flip the method and I'll put my dry ingredients in the food processor, then add my sugar and the butter last. That way you get that friction at the very end to bring the dough together and aerate a little bit. But truly, electric beaters or a stand mixer are your best choices. All right, the dough's coming together now. You can see I have just that little bit of butter stuck at the top of the mixer, and I've got a little butter stuck on my spatula. Let's get that off. And there we go. The dough has come together. Now you could make just plain shortbread if you wanted. I'm using mini chocolate chips to create chocolate chip shortbread. I love chocolate chip cookies. We all love chocolate chip cookies. You can tell by how many times you viewed my chocolate chip cookie recipe right here on Oh Yum. But are they fancy enough for a holiday cookie tin? I love this recipe because you get the best of the chocolate chip cookie with the best of a shortbread recipe. I like to call these stracciatelle because the chocolate chips, when you put them in the mixer, do break down a little. If you wanted to, you could cut chocolate into small chunks or even coarsely grated, but then don't mix it too long or it'll work into the batter itself. The mini chips are a perfect fix. All right, now the rest is by hand. And instead of scooping right onto my baking tray, I want to divide this dough up into equal portions so I have nice, precise shortbread. A lot of my chips ended at the bottom of the mixer, so I'll make sure I work those in as well. You'll find this dough is easy enough to handle by hand. So on a clean work surface, I'll just kind of fold in those chips a little bit. And what I'm going to do is actually use my portion scoop so I get precise portions, but that size, this is a number 40 scoop, would make a gigantic shortbread cookie. You would only get about 2 dozen or less, and that's a lot of butter per cookie. If you're gift giving your cookies, maybe it's a great idea. But I'm actually going to cut these in half. Shortbread cookies are one of the best cookies to make and freeze. Either make and freeze the doughs or even make and freeze the baked cookies. Because they have such a low quantity of sugar, that's why they freeze so well. The more sugar a cookie has, the less effectively it freezes because once frozen and thawed, sugar has a tendency to liquefy, and that can make your cookies sticky, lose their crispness if they were crisp when they first went into the freezer, where a shortbread, well, it improves in the cookie tin and it also improves in the freezer. There, look at that. Every little bit of dough. I'm not worried about cleaning my fingers because I'm going to start shaping my cookies now. I'll grab a paring knife, and what I like to do is cut each in half now. That's why I left a little space in between them. Shimmy a few over so you can see what I'm up to here. Got my baking trays, and what I'll do is take each portion of cookie, shape it into a round, and I do leave a little space. These cookies won't spread, but now we're going to press them down, give them a little shape and character at the same time. I can fit 4 across. All right. So you can use simply a fork dipped in flour and with a single press down your shortbread cookie. Or I've got a fun little cookie stamp here. I'm dipping it in flour and then press it down. Because you will find as these bake, they don't change their shape. They will expand a little bit, but there's no egg, there's no baking powder, just that butter. The shortbread are ready for the oven, and the key to successful baking is low and slow. I've preheated the oven to 300 Fahrenheit, and these take, even for cookies this small, 30 minutes to bake. Keep an eye on your oven. Go back and check a few times. If you've got hot spots, you may have to rotate or turn your pans, and you want to see barely a hint of browning at the edges, but ultimately these stay this buttery color. I let the shortbread cool on the tray because they are fragile coming out of the oven. And once cooled, well, they're ready to pack away or present. You can see how they held their shape. They spread just a little bit because of the butter, but the tenderness and that beautiful buttery flavor is ensured. There, that's a good stop. I've got my backup tray. And there it is. Some secrets behind making delicious, tender, buttery shortbread, elevating your chocolate chip cookie so that it's perfect for the holiday cookie tin. I know you're gonna make this recipe and love it. I love hearing your comments. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. We are an awesome bunch of bakers, have the best fans and subscribers here. Please sign up. I wish you happy holiday baking, and I'll see you again soon for another delicious recipe. Poof, and it disappears. Bye, everyone.